However, because of the way, where it is, the shape of the canyon, the way the wind's blowing, the gals that work in the front office who I have seen very, very worried about other fires are like, no, totally not worried. They also were in touch with CAL FIRE on like an hourly basis for updates and everything. So just in case you're wondering, it's not anything that they are worried about at all. And for the last 7 or 8 years, we've been up here in the middle of fire season. So some of us have been up here for a long time, know the routine. It gets very smoky at night sometimes, and it blows out during the day. So if you do wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh my gosh, it's really smoky, don't panic. It actually does that because of the way the wind blows. So that's the first thing. Second thing is that I want to give Professor Peterson here, Chris, a little bit of time to talk to you about the Coral Leadership Academy for a couple minutes, because it's a fabulous fabulous thing that's happening in our state.
Good morning, everyone. Hello. Good morning. Hey, thanks for listening here. I want to, I think I've got
for that mic. I'll try not to move. How many people have heard of the Coral Leadership Academy? Raise your hand. Beautiful. Quite a few of you. Yeah, and so I'd like to tell you about that. Up here on the board, Steve.
I'll speak up. Go ahead, please. Either way, Alex is going to fix this, and I'm not going to fix it. So the Coral Leadership Academy is often referred to as CLA. So when you hear people talking about CLA, they're talking about the Coral Leadership Academy. This is something that's been going on now for about 5 years. It was an educational idea that would bring students together in a mentoring situation with college students and high school students in a performance aspect and educational aspects, but without
a culminating concert, so it's not an honor choir. And so what happens is we bring in somebody who brought it to Edith Copley 2 years ago. Rod Eggenberger has been our clinician for a number of years as well. And what we do is we ask high school teachers to identify those 1 or 2 kids that you think are probably going to go on and have either a career in music, or be a music teacher, or even a performer in music. Someone that kind of shows that special little something. And maybe where they even say, I'm kind of curious about majoring in music. We want to take that student that you have, and we want to put them in a room for 2 days in San Jose on February, it's really 12 and 13 because they're on Friday and Saturday. And we want to put them with that clinician. We want to put them with college students who are music majors from all over the state. And give them an opportunity to sing through lots of literature, to talk about the profession in general, to meet some other people like Dr. Talbert, Dr. Benson, myself, Laura Marie Rios. It's really, there's quite a few people that get in front of them. And then they get to, it's kind of like a choral retreat. They play games, but then they sing, and then they eat together for a few of their meals. It's a really outstanding opportunity. They get a t-shirt, you're probably wondering about that. And if you want to know what it looks like, I'd like you to look at our president.
It's a great t-shirt.
It's a great t-shirt. The idea of this was to try to keep the cost low, and so it's about $75, I think, for the students to participate. They get a couple of meals in there. They have to get the rest of their meals on their own, but they can do that any way they want, by finding McDonald's or something. However, it is in San Jose, and they are responsible for their own housing. And so, if you're interested, and you're thinking to yourself, now I've got a kid, and I know he would be really great, he would need a chaperone to go with him if he's under 18. However, I would find housing as soon as possible because San Jose can get expensive at the last minute, or you might be traveling in. But there's no requirement to stay in the hotel. You just kind of work that out on your own. Does this sound kind of like a cool opportunity? I'll tell you what, the students who have, how many college students are here that have been to the CLA? So we have a few of them here. One of the goals at CLA is to introduce them to their professional organization. It happens at the same time as the CASMAC convention. And so there are opportunities. And this year, for the first time, ACDA will be part of that convention. And so those students in the Coral Leadership Academy, being mentored with college students, will go to some of that convention. They'll go to some of the intersections.
What's CASMAC?
CASMAC now is the combined, our music convention now. It's the band directors and the jazz people and now the choral directors. Yes, Jonathan is going to speak to this.
Chris, I just want to point out for those of you who are high school teachers that this will be the first time in many years that our all-state choirs will be happening with, at the same time, time as the band and the orchestra and the jazz band. So this is a great opportunity for that student who's really special, but isn't an all-state singer, to say, hey, you can still be there with all of the other musicians from the state. We've got this Choral Leadership Academy for you. So I want to think that that's a great direction to take that student who doesn't make all-state. And those students who do make all-state can't do CLA.
Yeah, that's really important to know. And we're limited to about 75 students, and about half of those would be college students. So if you're a high school director or a college director here, think about it. Get in touch with me. I'll put my email throughout the week. It's just C. Peterson, my first initial and last name, at fullerton.edu. You can let me know, and we'll reserve your space right away if you're interested. Okay, thank you so much.
Good morning. Good morning. So did you get lots of sleep? Just like me. Yeah. Well, one of the things, today we're going to start with a session that I coined planting seeds. Things that are helping you and things that will help your students in the classroom. And you're all here this weekend because obviously you're interested in being a continual learner, you know. And I think that's what we want to be throughout our career. Every time I go to a conference, every time I attend a performance, I'm learning something new. I'm finding a new piece of music that I never knew about before. And I think that's what's really fantastic about an activity like ECCO. So one of the first seed I want to talk about is instrument maintenance. If you're a flute player or an oboe player or whatever instrument you play, you have to take care of it. You have to make sure you have the right reed. In some cases, you have to make your reeds, and it's quite a process. And you really maintain it. And there's, you know, all my colleagues at the university that are teaching privately, not in my studios, but in their studios. I walk past a saxophone studio at 10 o'clock at night, and here's Jonathan practicing, you know, and playing his instrument. And I think for a lot of us, we're guilty, myself included, that we don't take enough time for our own instrument. And so I want to encourage you to actually participate, and participate in learning more about the voice. I was blessed for about 10 years. I worked with the Voice Care Network. This is in Minnesota with Optional Timer. It's a wonderful workshop that he gives almost every summer. And he has there's a voice track, and there's even a conducting track. And it has an Alexander technician in residence, and you get to take voice lessons, and you get conducting master classes, and it really has you focus on your voice. And then how many of you in here treat yourself to, you know, going and having a voice lesson, going back and taking some voice? Okay, there's like maybe 10 people that, and so I encourage you to do that. The other thing is that vocal pedagogy book that you had in college probably sitting somewhere with a little dust or something on it. It would be. It's probably by Richard Miller. It probably is. It's probably that Structures of Singing or The Art of Singing or Solutions for Singers. And then he has books on working with basses, working with tenors, working with sopranos. I don't think he wrote a book working with mezzos because we don't really need that much help. Yeah. But the more we stay informed about vocal issues, the more we help our students. More importantly, the more we help ourselves. For those of you, how many of you are new teachers in the room? You're just kind of starting off, like, you know, 1, 2, or 3 years. Yeah. And when I started, because I said it last night, I taught 8 classes a day. So, I mean, that was really hard. I'd come home and I could barely speak, you know, because especially at the beginning of the year, you're trying to do all the instructions, and this is how, you know, the rules and how things are going to work. And it was really hard. So you'll notice this morning, my voice is quite low because, you know, lack of sleep, all that kind of stuff. So while I'm talking this morning, I'm going to try to pitch my voice a little higher. The other thing is that in teaching, consider taking a singing breath before you speak. All right, let's turn to page 6. And let's hear the medicines. And take a breath as if you were giving instruction by vocal phrase, by singing phrase. And as a result, you'll find out that your voice is not as tired at the end of the day because you're using enough air. The other thing that's wonderful is that pause. It really focuses everybody. So, voice lessons, consider it. I know they're expensive. Just treat yourself. What would you like for Christmas? I want a voice lesson. I don't want a sweater. Rehearsal preparation. Rehearsal preparation. Abraham Lincoln said, if I was given an axe and was told that I have 8 hours to cut down a tree, I would spend 6 hours sharpening the axe. Sharpening the axe. That's what we need to do as choral directors. We need to spend the time getting the music ready so we know what we want to do and how we can really teach it. And we all know that it takes time. I know that I didn't spend as much time in score preparation when I taught junior high because it's, well, the junior high music, there's the A section, then the B section, then the A section comes back. And then there's a da capo that goes back to the A section. So it's not as difficult. And it's easier to hear, it's more tonal. But with some of the repertoire that the high school teachers are doing, and even at some of the advanced junior high teachers, it takes some work. But more importantly, how it is you want to teach it. So selecting the repertoire is the first thing though. And I think this is key. I can't tell you how much time I take trying to select the music. You know, because I don't know what it is. It seems like there's like always more music. And there's so much of it. And every publisher is pushing their music and trying to find the combination, trying to find the hook in the program. I'll tell you this story very quickly because I know we're a little behind time. But this was years ago. I was teaching in Waterloo, Iowa at a high school. And it was, you know, there were 3 high schools. There was like where the doctors and the lawyers' kids went. There was the east side, which was where a lot of the poorer families lived. And I taught at Central. And it was kind of like a, you know, middle class, but we had busing, forced busing. So we had a lot of kids coming from the east side. And I loved teaching there because of the diversity of the students. I just loved teaching there. And the thing that I discovered is I took the oh God, I can't believe I'm confessing this to you. Okay, here we go. Took my show choir. Show choir met at 6:30 in the morning until, you know, like 7:45 or whatever, you know, quarter to 7, 6:45 to 7:45. And we didn't rehearse on Fridays because that was basketball and football games, so we didn't do that. And a lot of football players and basketball and wrestlers, I had a lot of wrestlers, lots of wrestlers in the choir. Yeah, they're good singers. I don't know, maybe it's they're good for it. But anyway, took the show choir to a competition in La Crosse, Wisconsin. Big, huge competition in La Crosse. So we sang, the kids did a good job, and then they announced the, not the winners, but the finalists for the concert that night. And they announced that Waterloo East was in the finals. Well, my colleague, you know. And we were all just, you know, we always talked about this. Any choir from our city got to do anything. We were supporting. So they announced East High. My kids stood up. They cheered. Wow! You know, Waterloo. Yeah! You know, we cheered and everything. I saw the teacher afterwards, and I said, congratulations. Wow. We're going to probably, since we didn't get in the thing, we're going to head back down to Waterloo. We're going to drive down. We'll probably stay the night. And I said, but wow, your choir's just great. She looked right at me and she said, no, your choir was better. And I went, no, it wasn't. You know, I mean, they did a good job. I was very proud of them. But, you know, and she said, no, your choir was better. It really was. But my program was better. And I went, and she said, you did this and this and this and this and this, which is really good, but you didn't have this. And that has to happen here for it to work. And it was that moment, you know, eureka moment. That, oh, I need to really look at how I'm doing this. What key were we in? What, did I change up the tempo? Did I change up the meter? You know, was it funny? Was there something funny? You know, that kind of thing. And so then I went, oh, okay. So then we went back the next year. The trophy was this. But I must confess, I'm not a big fan of competition, because I don't think music's about competition. But I do know this, that at the high school level, taking the kids to a couple of these things a year so that they get to do that kind of thing was really great for recruiting, you know. And but I don't think, in other words, I don't think you should wag the tail. So the other thing about is score preparation, spending time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a score preparation handout, my check sheet of how I go about this. And there's lots of different ways of doing this, but I'm going to give that to you tonight so that you'll have that, and you can use it, photocopy it, and say, okay, did I do this, did I do that? And it's a really nice way to go through. But there's three biggies, and one is text. I don't know, I was with Mr. Noble for all those years, and boy, did we work on diction with Mr. Noble. That Fred Waring, you know, school dean in the 6 choral schools. And so my students at NAU call me Diction Princess. You know, just like, I'll say, come on, here we go, make a Diction Princess. Here we go. But I, for years, went, okay, underline this is the stress syllable, this is the one. This is the one that gets the emphasis. And then it took me, well, I don't know, 25, 30 years, and then I realized that's not what it's about. It's not about underlining the one that's important. It's about singing the one after it less. Eureka. And so that's what I do. I say, underline, underline, underline. Okay, you know, move to that and just make sure that you sing the one after it less. And it is so musical the first time. And it just makes all the difference in the world. I don't know about you, but in selecting repertoire, the text is what draws me to it. If it has a beautiful text, if it's using great poets, you know, I don't know. There's a lot of music out there that's, you know, it's like what Professor Denning said last night, you know, something that will last, something that will stay. And if you're using Emily Dickinson, and you're using Sarah Teasdale, and you're using Robert Louis Stevenson, and if you're using those kind of poets, it will stay, and it will last. Sing each part. Singing each one, what were the tricky parts, where the tricky intervals, and I always like to mark the breaths. Teaching at a university, I cannot get by with doing this. Okay, breathe here, check, here, because there's going to be someone who raise their hands like that. Do you want a daughter quarter A? Or do you want quarter? So I always make those decisions. I always do a rhythmic breath, so that when, you know, the question comes out, it's like, no, I'm daughter quarter A. You know, there's no like, oh, I'm not sure, you know. And you know what? Do all your score marking in, oh, that's a pen. Oh, pencil. Do it in pencil. Because you change your mind. You set up the tempo, and that didn't work, you know. So just make sure that you do it all in pencil. Phrasing, marking all the phrasing. And I find a lot of scores will have like, it'll start like piano, and then it goes crescendo. It says crescendo, and then the next phrase starts with something else. But it doesn't tell you how far to go. Do you know what I mean? And some of them are really good, but that's the other thing I really look for is like, I have to make a decision exactly how far I want the note to go. And introducing that phrase shape right away. Give me an E in the bass, and a G sharp for the tenor, a D for the alto, an F sharp for the soprano, of Robert Shaw's chords. He uses those thirds, you know, E major third here in the men, D major third in the women. And then when you're working on just rhythmic things, you just use that chord, and they actually can sing rhythm using that chord. Or you can also use a chordal chord. But I never have them speak that monotone voice. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather have them sing it on that chord. Don't make the students learn it twice. Don't work on notes and rhythms. Do the shape. Require that they sing each phrase, even in the warm-up, with some kind of musical shape. And so then warm-ups are kind of the alpha and omega. We did some of those last night, so let's stand up, and we're going to do a little bit this morning. A little bit this morning. Let's get a nice, comfortable key. Before we do, I just want, for fun, would like you to sing just the first phrase of the Star Spangled Banner. Just the first phrase of the Star Spangled Banner. Let's do an A flat. A flat. Ready? And 1, 2.
Oh, say can you see why the dawn's early light?
Now be creative and go into harmony. We do fun stuff here. We're all choral directors. We do this automatically. It's in our DNA. Ready? 1 and 2.
Oh, say can you see why the dawn's early light?
Now, without me conducting, I'm just going to give you this instruction. Let's listen. Can you listen a little bit more? And just saying that is great, but a lot of times it's better to say listen and have an intention. Tell them what you're listening for. Okay? So in this case, do it one more time, and let's listen for intonation. 1, 2.
Oh, say can you see why the dawn's early light?
Look at how many things you fixed. It wasn't just intonation. All of a sudden you started listening to vowels. All of a sudden you started listening to each other. You sang better together than when I was conducting, which is usually the case. It's very But we don't do this enough in rehearsal. Do you know what I mean? We don't give our students credit. You know, just say, okay, stop, and say, okay, let's just listen here, and let's listen for rhythm, or let's listen for vowel integrity. Let's listen here for the consonant rhythm. Let's listen here for the dynamic. And then just give them a chance, you know, to just do it themselves and really listen. And I think the listening is the most important thing that we have them do, focusing on that. And then the sound changes. And change is always good. Because if we didn't have change, we wouldn't have butterflies. Okay. So, the other thing is, I mentioned this last night. We do warm-ups for pitch awareness. That's what Mr. Shaw said. It's all about pitch and dynamic awareness. How many of you work with Mr. Shaw? There was a few of you that have done that. Warm-ups were for dynamic contrast and for tuning. That was it. He merely worked on that. But we all know that you're probably your kids' voice teachers, aren't you? You are the voice teachers. So we have to work on more than just tuning, you know, and dynamics. We have to work on a bunch of other things. So, on a side note, consider doing a warm-up exercise, as I said, in the middle of the rehearsal. When, for example, the basses are singing in their throat. Just stop. The tenors are, locking their jaws and raising their chins. They never do that. Sopranos, closing the space in the upper register. Okay? All those things happen. Altos, taking their chest voice up to C5. All right, stretch. Here we go. Shake. Shoulder rolls, back. I love doing these, the back ones like that. Do the ones forward. That's okay, but I really like these. Lean side to side, one arm up. And this one, your other hand goes down your leg. Oh yeah, stretch. Oh, the other way. Don't forget to breathe while you're doing this. One more time. And one twice. We're going to bend over.
And we're going to stack our vertebrae. And I'm going to count to 15. 15. You ready? Shake it out. Your head's released. I could just touch your head. That would just be like a bobblehead. Okay? Just it floats. Ready? Here we go. Start with the lower back. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Here's your head. 14, 15. Yeah, some of you were about here and then like, okay, try to breathe. Over we go. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15. Feels so good.
Scratch your face up. 11, open, wide, take a breath. And scratch. And open. Very comfortable. That far. Up. Down. You take my picture doing this the last time. Circulation, shake hands. Large. Andante. 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 Allegro. Allegro. Presto. Presto. Vivo. Counting to 8, like this, you know? And you do that shakedown thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, other foot, other hand, 7, 7, 7, 7. How about if you went, how about going down this, up the scale? Using solfege going up and doing it that way instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alignment. Have the kids learn about their body map. If you don't know anything about Alexander technique, investigate it. There's a great chapter in James Jordan's Evoking Sound. There's a whole chapter on Alexander technique. And I was talking to Lou last night. I had the unfortunate thing happen to me when I was in Vienna. I herniated L4 in my lumbar. And I didn't even know I did it. I just woke up and I thought, wow, that hurt. And then during the course of the day, this is what happened. And it was like, I can't stand up. And I had a concert that night. So I was walking around school like this, and one of my students said, what happened? And told him. He gave me the name of the doctor, and the doctor fixed my back. I mean, I didn't have surgery. We just did 4 months of therapy, and I haven't had any trouble with my lower back since. But the thing is that part of the therapy is I was required to go to an Alexander technician every week for table work. It was like, what do you call it? Like, it was a prescription. You have to go to that. I also had to have reflexology on my feet. I had to have massage. I had to have ultrasound. I had to have back injections. Everyone's going, Fingers like this. Here we go. Let your head sit on the top of your You know, most kids, when you say, where's the top of your spine, they all go like, well, it's here. You have to make sure they know that it's right, turn your head side to side, it's right about here. It's this intersection of your nose and your ears. That's where the top of your spine is. It goes way up into your head. And so do that little tilt. This is also a great thing while the kids are singing. Just in rehearsal, while they're singing, just go, a little bit of no. I did this with Shrine. No. And while they're singing, they just have that free here, and they can do a little bit of this. I also learned this from, I think, Betsy Schauer. She did this with tenors. I just remember this. You get this. You put it on your chest. This goes on the bottom of your chin. This is great for tenors. And then it keeps their head just really nice and still. And then they have that little bit of contact with their chin. And then if they start singing, they're always aware of where the position of the head is. So that's a cool thing. And that's not in your handout, so you may want to get that in. Back of the neck is long. Front of the neck is short, but not laryngeal press, not this, okay? But you should feel this length in the back, this forward and up, which is all, and the spine is a core. It goes right through the middle of your body. Most of the time, if you ask students, where's your back, they go, oh, it's here's your body, and the back is just on the back of your body, but it really is right down the center in that core. So that is also a good thing for them to know. Turning sideways, floating their hands, and releasing your shoulders. This is good for you as conductors. Releasing your shoulders out. Just feeling that drop. I learned this from Leanne Conley. She's doing her doctorate. She was one of my master's students. She sings she sang for many years with Helmut Reeling at ORF, Oregon, like the OB, the Oregon Bach Festival. She worked with Judith Harrington up in the Pacific Northwest. Think of your feet as like tripods when you stand. You know, like there's a tripod when you stand on your feet. Rather than like, oh, there's a front and a back, you really feel like it gives you a more stable position underneath your shoulder. You know, we learn from our students all the time. I love that. Think forward and up, and if you get a chance, go to an Alexander Technician and have like one table. I have all my graduate students, whenever possible, have a table session with an Alexander Technician, because I'm serious. Before I had Alexander, I was 5'6", and now by the way, this is true. I was 5 foot, what was I? I was 5'2" until my 9th grade year. I was the shortest kid in the class, one of the shortest kids. I grew 7 inches between my freshman and junior year. It was painful. Okay, drop your heels. Go back on your heels. Diving board. Okay, drop your heels. Now drop your arms. That's a great feeling, isn't it? Raises the chest. That's my favorite posture, getting into the right alignment. This is a great one for that. It's in your handout, don't worry. The other one is this. While the kids are singing, I always say, oh, be expressive. You have to be expressive. So then you get, I affectionately call it Dobson sway. When Martin Evans was teaching at Dobson, he always had the kids move. And so when they came to... And it was really fun to watch the concerts on Fast Forward. So we don't want it to be this kind of fake kind of thing, but there is something that really helped, and I call it cushy slippers. Pretend like you put on cushy slippers, and then instead of just on the ground, feel like you're in these, you know what I'm talking about, those deer forms or whatever they are, deer foams, or okay, so that you're not swaying, but you feel the shift in weight. And I like it because it makes you aware of your whole body as you're singing. You know what I mean? From the feet up, rather than, oh, within my head, or that kind of thing. You kind of feel connected to the earth as a singer. And I love that. Here's another one to get good alignment. It's just marching. And it doesn't, and the thing is you're moving your arms, you're relaxing, right? It's not, and stand in a nice noble posture. Okay, and now stop. That's another way to get, and they're moving to get into it. I like that. The other one is when they sit down. Can I borrow a chair? This is a Jeff Johnson thing, and maybe thank you. Have you seen this in his Ready, Set, Sing video? It's in your handout. Have a seat so you can see. You know what? Stand back up here. Okay, ready? I want you to, we'll do what this video is. Go like this with your hand. You have a Waterford crystal glass. Here's the stem, here's the rim. Got it? And you're holding it in your hand. Okay, now you have to put your stuff down. So you have your other hand. Okay, open up, there's you have a little cabinet right here to put the glass in. Open up the cabinet, put the glass in. Got it? It's in there? Okay, close the cabinet. Now, sit down, but don't break the glass. So everyone sits usually on the edge of their chair, right? And look at this great length right here, because you don't want to break the glass. And you give them that analogy, and guess what? In rehearsal, you'll see the kid going like further back in the chair, like this. Then all I do is just go, you're breaking the glass, and then it's like, so that they just realize that they have to make sure that the ribs are crossed. Cool, good. Okay, stand up. That was your break. Please find your 10th rib. That's the one at the bottom. Okay. Exhale first. Inhale. Exhale. Richard Miller. First breath, rib cage expands, and it basically doesn't move that much again once you start. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale through your nose. Exhale. Inhale on an O shape. Exhale. Nose. Exhale. Ooh. Exhale. I found that I had voice teachers that wanted me to breathe more through my nose. So that you're standing at the piano and you take the breath. So you have that nice I do know this. Vowel purity and vowel ring in the solo voice, is it has at times a much more forward and distinctive placement. And in the choral stuff, I find that if they breathe in the shape of the vowel, that the choir has more warmth of sound. And for my ear, and it's just me, I like the choir to have a warmth of sound. But I want the solo singers to have a great ring and resonance throughout, in all of it. I want it in the choir as well, but not to the same degree because they fight. Do you know what I mean? It's very hard to do it. So the initial vowel helps with that. The breath of the initial vowel. Cool. We did the drink a glass of water the other day. Here's one that was also great for, invite the air in, take a breath, ready? Here's one, put your hands like this, right in front of your nose, and then let the air drop in like this. We take a breath and go. That's a cool feeling. Isn't that great? And it goes right to the right place. It's a great visual, okay? And then, the next is the Farinelli. There's have a seat. The Farinelli, there's 4 sections of breath. I always start with the exhale, which doesn't really count. The second thing is to take an inhalation. And the Farinelli exercise, and you do this in a seated, don't break the glass position. But what I have the choir do is this. Take your hands like this and breathe for 4 counts. So you're going like this on an O shape. So we'll go 2, 3, 4. The second is called suspension. So there's a little weight. In other words, it's not, for years I was just like, oh, take a breath and come in. Take a breath and come in. You know, give us a D flat major chord. D flat, A flat, D flat, F. Okay. And just pretend like you're singing Ave Maria. Okay, Ave Maria. We'll take a nice breath, and I'll give you the prep, and then I want you to come in and come in. Ready? Here we go. Yeah. Breathe. Try to see if we can do it more together. Ready? It's still, we're still audible. Can you listen? Listen, listen. No glottal. Still listen together. And so then when I just really started working a lot of, and I used the fair note. I really used it in the warm-ups. Do it again. Here we go. Breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Suspension. Then do an SH. 2, 3, 4, and recovery. No? So that there's an onset that initiates the sound. There's an offset that stops the sound. And that has to be as much together as the onset. So, inhalation, suspension, phonation, recovery. Ready? Inhale again. And let's do that on all. Let's do it that. Ready? Here we go. Breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4. Suspend. Recover. 1, 2, 3, 4. Suspend. Just having that little weight. Then the onset comes in. Try it again. Now I'm just going to conduct here. Again. It is the suspension that helps them time the onset. And there's a lot more information about this. You know, avoiding the glottal, avoiding too much, too much air. Younger singers. Okay, so really, I do this almost every day in warm-ups. Breathe, suspend, SH, recover, suspend, F. Breathe, suspend, a vowel or a chord. And it really helps them think about it. And then during rehearsal, just say, no, breathe ahead. The other thing we don't do enough in rehearsals, we go, 1, 2, ready, sing. And when you're in rehearsal, you walk around the room, and say, oh, come on, Margaret, sit up a little higher. Okay, that's good. And you're walking around the room, and then we do the 1, 2, ready, go. But think about this. This is the Don Griniger thing, which I love. He did this session years ago at NAU for a student symposium, and he had people stand up, and they just talked, and then they had the choir sing, and then the choir really responded to their speaking voice. You know what I mean? How the person spoke, he gave the instruction, okay, ready, start, and the choir would go, oh, and then the bass would go, oh, which is hard to D, and the choir would go, oh, and it changed with the tone of their voice. So I think we have to be kind of aware of how that's supposed to happen. I just lost my train of thought. Okay, please. So instead, use your voice to go, 1, your rehearsal, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Then guess what? You take the breath on 3 instead of 4. 1, 2. So I'm going to go, come in on your ah, and I'm going to 1, 2, ready. Take the breath on 4, and then again. 1, 2, ready. 1, 2, breathe. It's a totally different sound because you breathe differently. You took more time for the breath. So at the beginning of songs, I don't usually give a prep like this. I give a prep like this. I give 2 beats. Breath, suspend, onset. It seems to help. David Adams was a very great tenor at Cincinnati, and he came into our choir conducting class once, and he said, make sure that when you're working with young singers, that you always, and this is under seed number 6, we're already into seed number 6, creating vowel space. He said, always create the space for the vowel before you start harping on the students about placement and getting placement. Paul Brandvik, who taught in the Midwest and still teaches there, think of your mouth as a tunnel rather than a cave. I think we see our mouth the way it's kind of constructed. And that visual image that this is more of an opening like this rather than just that helps the singers. And I think so much of what we do is about inside space, not outside space. And that's what the kids confuse. They go like this. Outside space. It's all inside space. That's why, woo, wee, yeah, woo. My mouth isn't open that much, but woo, I'm thinking that height. Which number 3, tell them to build an addition to your house. Add an attic and a basement. It's inside, the house is in there. So, put on both sides. We did this last night, 3 fingers. Yeah, no. This is, a lot of you probably do this, don't you? For vowels. Knuckles, on one and cheek. Let's do that D flat major chord again. We're just going to go to mi, no, na, no, nu. And the power of your lips. Ready? And here we go. Breath. Out. That inside space. Fingers in front of the ears. Kids love this. But you've done this. Say, okay, drop your jaw. And they all work. Oh, okay. You know, so that's great for old vowels, ooh vowels. You know, that really gives that nice space, especially ooh. I just came back from doing a week of teaching in Tennessee. They have a Tennessee Arts Academy that's unbelievable. It's music, visual art, and drama. 17 faculty, something like 300 participants, $400,000 budget, and the faculty doesn't get it. Because they bring in people from the Met and Broadway and artists from LA. And it's just an amazing thing. But we worked a lot in that session with vowel. And so one of the things that, if this, I'm going back to Jeff Johnson's Ready, Set, Sing, he uses hand signs to encourage vowels. So let's do E flat minor, E flat minor. And ready? And the first one is E. You go like this with one hand and pull it out of your lip. Ready? We go E. Again, ready, and breath. It's the same. I think his is like this. I like starting low and doing up. This is the one vowel that will lose placement. It's the hardest vowel in the world to sing, and every voice exercise book uses it everywhere. I avoid ah. It's one of the last ones I do if we get everything going. Ah is really hard for them to place. Again, here we go. Ah and father. Again, ready? Breath. It's the same. Here's A. The other one that he has that I didn't put in, and I don't think it's on. Oh yeah, it is there. I'm sorry, it's F. Go. So, the reason he does this, and this is a Western thing. Western always did this on F. say olive. All vowels are open except F vowels. Tell them to close the F vowel. And it automatically lines up and tracks the vowel through the sleeve, which is what Robert Shaw said. All your vowels should track through your sleeve. Cool. Additional signs that I got from students. Here's A. Ready? E flat. Breath. Sustain. A. Use your hands, use your hands, use your hands. Take a breath. Breath. Sustain. Here's it. Breath. Sustain. Here's as a look. Breath. Sustain. Here's awe. This is my favorite. Here's the schwa. This is a soprano from Kansas when I was doing the Kansas All-State. I said, I don't know what to do for the schwa. She went. And I went, I like it. Okay, so here's the schwa on the word the. Ready? And Also, this is after 35 years of teaching. All of a sudden I realized, oh, it's the dog. How many years did I teach going, no, dog. Dog's the important word. And the kids would go, dog. No, it's dog. Dog. No, dog. Dog. That's better. Dog. It's an vowel on da. Da. It's so open and it's so forward. But if you really do a schwa, you see what I mean? Okay. Keep the vowel open, forte and piano singing. Increase concentration on vowels by singing only the vowels on new. Here we go. My country tis of thee in E major. E major. E. Go. Okay. No consonants except an and. Good luck. 1, 2, breath, suspend. Resonant voiced consonant to place the vowel. And we could use more ring, buzz. So the feel of the resonant consonant translates into the vowel. So it really translates into every vowel. That's a Western noble. We did that so much when I was in Norway, I couldn't believe it. We even had a girls' trio with Karen Brunson, the gal from Northwestern. You know. We used to do that in our show. You should just see the Kiwanis when we do that. Sing a Lions Club, and now we're doing the Red Red Robin. And then we take all the words out, and y'all just look at it. Shaw asked Weston, how do you get good vowel uniformity? And everybody talked about, oh, vowel space, oh, you got to do this, you got to track the vowel, you got to do the, oh, you have to breathe on the vowel, think for you. And then Shaw looked at him and said, no, to get vowel uniformity, you have to get rhythm. It's all about rhythm. Because if you don't all get to the vowel at exactly the same time, it doesn't matter how you're shaping it, it doesn't matter. You have to get there at the same time. So all your consonants are short, and all of your vowels are the consonants are as quick as possible, and you get to the vowel as quick as you can. You can't wait to get to the vowel. I always talk about having your vowels as being your best friends, and your consonants are just acquaintances. So don't take this personally, but you're a consonant. Hi. Vowel. It's that quickness that you get right through the consonant and get to the vowel. Resonance builders. We have a nasal one. Go like this. We have a mouth resonant. You also have one that's used for head, which is the NG. Okay, nasal, mouth, head. Yeah, and the head one feels great. And guess what? When humming happens, a lot of times when I'm doing something that's humming, I'll switch and do the head one. It gives it so much more presence. If it's in a really beautiful hall that has lots of really nice acoustic, fine, use amp. But if it's kind of dead, use the head resonance one, and it really helps project it. Okay? Feel the resonance builders and carried into the vowel. I just said that. Forward and up, that's the James Jordan. Cool air inhalation can create a brighter resonance. That's the breathing through the nose or a feeling that. But I don't do that as much with the choir. Warm air inhalation gives more warmth. Forward placement and tone. Good vowels to build a brilliant and focused sound. E's and A's. If you want a nice, brilliant sound, rehearse the stuff using E and A. They're wonderful for focused sound. For warmth, you use oo and o. You start reading a Brahms piece for the first time. Guess what you sing it on? I sing Brahms on an oo. You're doing like in Stille Nacht, or one of those a cappella. This Nacht to Wunderkühle. Sing it first on an oo vowel, and it will help the students immediately connect to the warmth of that sound and that browsing sound. Begin with a bright vowel, then move to an open vowel. So let's do this on an F major chord, F sharp major. And we're just going to start these with going to an E and then going into all. Ready? So here's E and breath. And now go to all. So feeling where the E is and then going to the more open vowel really helps with placement. Try A into ah. Ready? And breath. Sustain. Your kids sing so much with feel. So if you get them to feel the placement of the one and transfer it to the other, it really will help them a lot. Good initial consonants to couple with the vowels, B, D, V, and those are all voiced consonants, and those will help you the most. If the tone is edgy, switch to oo to lighten the sound. If the tone is nasal, have them hold their nose. If they're speaking with the nasal production, I'll try to speak with a nasal tone, and then I go, it will, in singing, it will shut down. It'll just shut as soon as you grab your nose. I can't remember who I got that from. I got that from someone. Maybe it was Z. Randall Street. I can't remember. And then it will open the sound. If the sound is weak, the women, breathy, so on, start rehearsing on those voice consonants. Remember last night? Start the car. Sopranos. Switch to B. They can't do it unless, it helps them connect with the sound. Tone is heavy and weighted. Have them sigh. Jared Blackstone has all the men sing up the octave, and then come down and sing it in the regular octave. Immediately sing up high, and then come down to your regular octave. It immediately lightens the tone. And that's fabulous. If you're working with a men's group, I love that. Tone quality does not change with dynamic. We worked on that last night. Number 10, be aware of the pitch of your voice in rehearsal. Just talked about that, right? Expressive phrasing, job. No two consecutive note syllables or words should receive equal emphasis. This is, I think, we can't do choral music unless we do that. And we have to take time to figure out, this is the most important one, I'm going to here, I'm going to do a little swell here, and then a bigger swell here, I'm going to there, and then I'm going to taper at the end. And then, sometimes, you can just look at the students, and this happens all the time, you try and they'll sing something, and I'll just go, oh, can you just sing that more musically? And then they go, oh. And then there's all this beautiful shape and everything else. And then I just look at them and say, why didn't you do that first time? So it just helps. Here's a couple things to help with phrasing. Let's do just, and let's do My Country 'Tis of Thee, and I want you to pull the rope when you're singing. My Country 'Tis of Thee. You need to sing words this time. Okay? So pull the rope on every word. And this will help you think about getting through the note, thinking, singing through the vowel. Okay? Here we go. 1, 2, go.
My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty.
Some of you grab the rope like this. Those are your consonants. Quick as possible. Okay? Higher key. Ready? And
My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty.
ready? Play the cello. And
My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing.
Alright, so play the cello, paint the house, Karate Kid. This is great too. Little Tai Chi action here, with Al doing this kind of thing. I think in Karate Kid they painted the fence. This isn't wax out, wax out. But paint the fence, I like paint the house. You have Midwest siding. And the cool thing is that when you're painting the house, the flick of the brush is the consonant. My country is. The flick of the brush is the consonant. Okay. This is the other one. Get to the vowel as quick as possible. Think staccato and hang on. Ready? My Country 'Tis of Thee again. Ready? And just think staccato. Think, if you're good, well, sing it staccato. 1, 2, 3, suspend.
My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing.
Now think that and hang on. Ready? Breath. Stay.
My country 'tis of thee, sweet land.
Now, it helps you get to the vowel quicker, but you accent it. Can you take the accent out? Breath. Stay.
My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing.
Do you see how quickly you get to the vowel? And that is so key in intonation with your choir. Really big. Great. Have them walk phrases. This is great with Vera Langores last night to actually say, okay, here we go. Everyone spread out in the room. We're not doing it right now. But like have everyone walking and having that sense of destination of where they're going. And then once they get to it, then they come back. If you have the space, go outside on a beautiful day. Let's go outside. Give them a pitch. Outside in the grass. I do that at the university. We'll go out in front of the music building and we're singing, Ovos Omnes. And then walking to phrases and then coming back. And you can't believe there's people around campus that come and watch and they go, sounds great. And they, but the kids have to have a sense of destination of where the phrase is going. Dynamic contrast, this is scene 9. We did it last night. One of the things that I think is great is whispering. So, pretend, hold a little, you have a little 1-year-old on your lap. Okay, and they don't know my country Chesapeake. So just tell the story of my country Chesapeake. Ready? Ready? Yeah. My country is a sweet land of liberty, of the I sing. Some of you are doing this. You're doing my country tis of the sweet land. The kid will start crying. They'll start crying. You can't go. So you have to go. My country tis of the sweet eyes, face, mouth, and then they watch. And guess what? Your audience is just like that. Your audience is just like that. So happy. We try it one more time. Just do this. Let's go. My country is are you moving your hand a little? Sweet land of liberty, of the I sing. Yes. And then guess what? They're going. And your audience is going. They won't know who to watch. I tell the students that when you're singing, you should be vying for the look because it's an oral art and a visual art. And you want people to go, oh, that's expressive. Oh, wow, he's fun to watch. She's great. Oh, he's really into it. Wow, she's so expressive. You know, they don't know who to watch because they're all engaged. All right. Intonation and listening. We did some of this last night. Pitch. How am I doing in time? Horrible. Right? I'm doing horrible on time. Okay. Intonation and listening. Pitch problems often the result of applying excessive breath pressure while carrying the lower register up. We talked about this. Tim Salter, as you ascend the stairs, drop the luggage. It should be lighter as you ascend. 50% of pitch problems are due to poor rhythm, not getting there. So count singing. It's another Shaw thing. We just count singing all the time. Clean up rhythmic and pitch inaccuracies by singing on dute. I love that. As soon as you start hearing a little fuzz in the bass section, no offense, don't take it personally, basses. But it always seems to be the basses. You just stop and just say, basses, can you sing that on dute? And they'll go, oh, okay. And you give them a pitch and they'll go, do, 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 and then the whole choir goes. So, right and lower voices and light. We talked about it last night. Have the men sing up in falsetto. We just talked about adjust the key and acapella. Oh my gosh. If I see something in F or G, I'm out of there. It's F sharp. I'll put it in A flat. Take it down to, just F. It's just, I think because I think it's because of lifts in the voice, where the lifts are. But it's really cool. When I was in Tennessee, this woman came up to me and she goes, well, you know why F doesn't really, like F sharp, it's always, I love singing F sharp with the choir rather than F. Or even G, I'll take it down to the F sharp. And she said, oh, did you know that at the University of Tennessee, they did this experiment where they cut open cadavers and they were looking at, like windpipes and how the vocal tract works. And she said, do you know that the vocal tract actually sounds an F sharp when air is sent through it? And I went, really? She said, yeah. She said, they just kind of like, well, I wonder what the pitch of the track is. When they sent air through, it was F sharp. And I went, weird. I want to see a documentary on that. Well, maybe I don't. I don't know. Singing in circles and during rehearsals, standing formations. New video out. Came out last. Thank you. Video came out last year. Charlene Archibald, How to Make a Good Choir Great. How to Make a Good Choir Great. I think it's published by GIA. And it's over 2 hours long. And the cool thing about it, it works with a college choir, works with a high school choir, works with a children's choir, works with a women's choir, and she experiments with all these different ways to make them stand to have them improve their sound. Well, let's try this, let's try that. And then she also goes through the standing placement thing, all of kind of Weston Noble. And I thought about doing that with you here, and I thought, I know a lot of you have seen that kind of presentation before. Also, I go to do festivals and people stand on the risers and they stand in the middle because they want everybody to hear. And we all know from research that this circumambient space around you, we need to have that to fill out the choral sound. And so use the risers. The other thing that was amazing at the National Convention when I went to that acoustics session is that they said you can take a choir of I think a choir of 28, and you can double it up to 46 or 50. And in terms of the change in sound, the percentage of the sound, additional sound that's produced is not that much. It's like 20% increase, even though you're doubling the size of the choir. So I was really kind of shocked with those statistics. A lot of times intonation with your choir is not based on that they're singing poorly or that they're just not listening or whatever. Sometimes it's technical. It's a vocal technical thing and it's not their fault. But like I said last night, it is our problem. Thank you, Joyce Eilers. And I find a lot of times I look at the chord structure and that tells me why they're out of tune. The chordal balance is not right. So the root is first. Look, the fifth is next. The ninth is next, then third, then seventh. Vocal jazz people in here all know how that works. And inversion chords, just put a choir with the basses in a 4-2, where the bass is on the 7. I mean, it's just like, okay, that's not good tune. Well, and if the third is on the bottom too, that's not good tune either. The fifth will be okay. Root's perfect. Okay. All right. Enhance your rehearsals with and space. Put up a solfege chart. I talked about this last night. And you can go online and get the hand signs. And they're 8.5 by 11, and you can print them off, and you can laminate them, and you can color them, and all kinds of cool things. Put those up too. And then take the me and the I out of your rehearsal. I try not to ever say things like my choir. I want you to do this. This is brain compatible learning that I learned at Voice Care Network, and it just made such an impression on me. So it's always like, can we? Let's try. Let's always use let's and we rather than I want you to do this here. Do this. Let it be. Do this for me. And the other thing is, I had a colleague that was in another area. It's like, my band, not currently, but way a long time ago. My band, my. And you know what? It's not ours. You can be hit by a truck tomorrow. And then it's going to be the choir. It's still there, and we're going to be, we're going to be fine. We're not going to let us down. The other thing is you want a positive atmosphere. I used to want, oh gosh, it's an assessment now, and the administrators want to make sure that you're being collaborative in your rehearsals now. They come in and they want to watch, and so that you're asking questions and stuff. Oh, is it being a two-way street? Are you initiating? What did you think? What do you think we could do better there? The kids say, wow, I used to do that all the time. I need to solicit. I need to do that. And so I was doing it. Well, guess what would happen? That hand would go up in the back of the soprano section, and they go like this, and I go, yes, what is it? And they say, well, we're still missing the F sharp on bar 34. And it creates ill will. It's not good. So you want to have this, but it just doesn't work. I also have this no negativity zone. Kids are coming in and saying, that is so unfair. Gosh, Dr. Hoo-Ha, he gave that history test, and there was a whole section on stuff that he didn't even tell us to study. That is so unfair. I can't believe it. And then I go up to them and I go something like, wow. I said, that sounded negative. Sorry. A lot of teachers say, whatever it is, you leave it outside the door or whatever. And I think that if you just approach everything with that smile when they're pouring out the garbage. Just come up and say, that's, no. And then they go, oh, you know what they do? They go, I'm sorry. You're right, I'm sorry. But you want them to contribute. So, what you do is the power of the sticky note. You go to the Staples and you get a stack of sticky notes and you have them in the front of the room and the kids can come up and grab a sticky note. And then they just have them in their folders, just a few of them, and then guess what? If that F sharp is happening, someone will write it down. And then after rehearsal, they come up and they go, I'll say something like, your colleague, one of you, thank you. You gave me a speaking note yesterday, and let's go to the bar such and such. This is great, let's work on this. And then we do it. And then there's no hard feelings, there's, it just really works slick. And guess what? They get to participate, win-win. I get the help from them, and they have that. You want them to be able to contribute. You want them to be good listeners. You want them to be diagnosing what's happening in your rehearsal, but the sticky notes really, really help. And then, the last little section is ask questions. You can ask questions, but don't do this. So, is there anything else we need to still work on? And it sounds awful. And it just ends up being very, very negative. Mr. Noble was so good at this. He would always ask questions during the rehearsal. This went off. Did it go off?
Maybe he's working on it.
He's working on it. Maybe I'm out of battery. He used to look at people, like in the Dorian Festival, 1,000 kids, and he'd look over and he'd go something like, Mr. My Plan, My City, He would point at someone that had a shirt on, or Mr. Gray Shirt, or Miss Teal, You know what Mr. Noble called me my entire 4 years I was there? Davenport. Davenport. I was from Davenport, Iowa. He called me by my city. Davenport. And it was always a theory question. What kind of court is that? German augmented sixth chord. Yeah, that's right. And I go, why did I do that? Misread hair, whatever. And it was always specific. And the other thing that was great is that you know the kids that are smart with some theory, the kids that have had piano, but then there's other kids that don't have that. But you know what you want? You don't want to constantly be calling on a kid that knows, everything. You want to ask the kid that really isn't that good in theory, maybe not the best sight reader, but again, what do you ask them? Could you please read the poem for us? Could you, what do you think of the shape of that? How do you think it should be shaped? Gear it toward your kids of what their ability levels are so that they get those questions too. And don't ask those general things. Always, what can we still work on those kind of things? I'm going to give you a list of my concepts the last day so that you can incorporate much more than this even into your rehearsals. Take out Praise the Lord. We're going to sing for 9 minutes, non-stop. This is a Baroque piece, so it's vocal jazz. I'll say that again. This is a Baroque piece, so it's vocal jazz. Praise the Lord. Find it? What page is it on? 20. Got it? Okay. Baroque music, cliff note version. Ready? Baroque music, cliff note version. All of the eighth note pickups are short. Sing the eighth note pickups as short as possible. Every quarter note, sing with kind of a tenuto staccato. You know what I mean? Like this. A little bit of space. Every quarter is like this. Tenuto staccato. I call it a stanuto. It's not a stanuto, it's a portato. But I said, tenuto staccato. And the kid said, kind of like a stanuto. I said, I like that. So I started using stanuto. And All right? You can do the, let's one hand hold the music, other like this. 2, 3, 4. up. So you're practicing your conducting by doing the Kleenex. 1, 2, C is in catnip. Or is there a better place to start later? Yeah, talk a 6-second bar, like 24-second bar. Ready? Up, 2, Kleenex, go. So I can do the up gesture. Do you know what I mean? Because this has clarity. But once you do this, it makes Baroque music come alive. It contrasts the things in most conducting classes. They say one of the biggest problems is if you get to the beat too soon. Okay? So, you know what I'm saying? This needs to get to the beat too soon. And up, 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 up. It's easy when you don't think about it. If you try to think about it, you're all, not right now, you're all going. And then I went Kleenex, and you went. You don't have to think about it. All right, cool. We were going to sing through some men's music this morning too, but you know what? We have some time to sing through this. We have a lot of music we're doing this afternoon. Secular, folk music, and multicultural music this afternoon. And then this evening, we're going to do a master class in conducting. And I'm also going to give you a 20-minute bionic conducting tune-up that we'll all be conducting together for a few minutes. And then we'll do some master class. And then tomorrow, we'll do some more sight reading as well. So we'll get to this men's music. I promise we'll get to it. But I'm out of time, so thank you so much for listening.